Welcome to Model Kit Stuff, where you'll find all of this. Hello, welcome to Model Kit Stuff and welcome to Airbrushing for Complete Beginners, the next episode. And in this one we're going to be focusing on control of your airbrush and fine airbrushing skills. So we have gone from never having used an airbrush before, how to choose a compressor, an airbrush that's right for you as a beginner. We've talked about setting up the airbrush, cleaning the airbrush, how to prime the airbrush, paint practice and masking, putting one single colour down over a large area. We've talked about problem solving and how to resolve the common issues that people come up against. And now what we're going to do is we're going to look at painting technique, and this is all about practice, really. It's just the same as painting with a paintbrush. The more you do it, the better you get. Today we're going to try and instill some understanding of how to control your airbrush so that you can get finer results. And for that you're going to need some paper, a pencil, and if you've got something you can draw circles with and straight lines with, that would be ideal too. Right, so you might have heard of dots and dashes, which is something people often refer to when they're talking about practicing airbrushing. I think you need to go a little bit further than that, really. The dots and dashes is all very well, but you need to learn control, and what dots and dashes do is it helps you learn trigger control. But there's more to airbrushing than just pressing a trigger. You need to be able to control movement and range and all that sort of good stuff as well. So what I want you to do is get yourself a piece of paper like I've done and draw yourself some shapes. Now, they don't have to be exactly the same as these. These are just the ones that I think work fairly well. So I'll talk you through them quite quickly. So from the bottom here, sorry, I've been struggling to get an angle where I can get in with the airbrush and you can see what I'm doing. So we've got, at the bottom here, we've got circles. And the idea of those is to paint over the pencil lines and do those ever decreasing circles. Remember that program? Then we've got a swirl, we've got a camouflage pattern, we've got lines, we've got dots, which we'll do dots underneath, we've got more circles, and we've got some boxes at the top, a grid, which we're going to use for dashes. So draw yourself these or some variation of those, and then get yourself set up so that you can paint. So you don't want this lying flat, because it's more difficult to control your airbrush when you're painting on a flat surface. So you want to put it on an easel or stack it up against some books or whatever you need to do. So there we go. Then you want to mix yourself some paint, a dark colour that's easy to see what you're doing. So I'm using black. And the airbrush I'm using is a modified Gallery Ace GHAC 98 Dual. I've got the 3.8 needle in here. And when I say modified, I have swapped out the trigger for a more comfortable one with a bit more precision control, and I've swapped out the air cap for one with 6 holes that give me a little bit more oomph. So here we go. this is what we're going to be using. I have done a video on this airbrush which you'll be able to see, and I will be talking about airbrush modifications in the future. Right, so it doesn't really matter where you start, but what we're trying to do is control the amount of air going through here. So we're controlling the width of the paint that we're putting down. And what you need to understand, and we did a little bit of this in a previous video, is the difference it makes, the distance you are from the job, and how much air you're putting through. So the more air you put through, the wider your burst is going to be. The closer you are, the narrower you're gonna get your stream of paint, because what happens if you imagine it's a cone, so the further away you are, the wider the cone is when it's making contact with your work. So the closer you are, the narrower the cone is, yeah? So I'm gonna put this face on so I can see, and then I'll periodically stop and show you the results. Now, obviously, expect you to do this properly with respirators and what have you. I'm going to have to forgo that for now so I can talk, but I do have my mask with me, so I can just cover it over my mouth while the airbrush is running. Now, if you've got an airbrush like this gallery airbrush which has a stop on the front, you can put the stop on to help you not pull the trigger too far back. That will help. So what you want to do first is, not on your piece of paper that you're using, is just get your airbrush set up to how you want it for doing fine work. So we start as always with air on, and then we pull back till we engage the paint. Okay, so in that process, while I was doing that wiggly line, I was getting the the trigger to the point I wanted it, and then adjusting the stop, and you can see that the stop is very, very close to being all the way, so I don't pull the trigger back too far. Periodically, you want to just check you've not got any tip dry. I think I might have done. I have put some flow improver in this. Okay, there we go. So I've now got a nice small pattern that it's going to help me draw what I need to draw. So first thing we're going to do is we're just going to do some easy stuff that has a little bit of precision involved. So we're just going to start by following that wiggly line, so like we were doing a camouflage pattern. So there we go. So you can see, followed the line. So you take your time, you make sure your airflow is not too bad, and away you go. So we followed that line, we've managed to do that. So now let's do something a bit more tricky, which is circles. So at the bottom of my pad here, I have a number of circles. I'm going to adjust my camera, see if you can see them a bit better. I'm going to start with the big one, and again, we just want to follow the line. And you can see it's not easy, but I'm pretty much roughly there. The more you do it, the better you get. Or maybe you don't. You get the idea. So you eventually you decreased, so you've got small circle, and these ones we're just trying to fill in. And remember to be practicing air on, air off, so you don't get the spatter. I can be a bit bad for that. The more you practice, the better your control's going to be. So once you've been messing around with circles, have a go at doing a more complex circle like a spiral. So it's a bit like what we were doing following the line. Well, this time we've got to do curling in, which is actually quite difficult to do. So air on, pull back, notice how close I am. That's what's giving me the narrow effect. Further away I get, the wider it gets and the thinner the paint looks. Now it's a bit difficult because I'm doing it at an angle because of the camera, but if I was square on I could manage that. So what you've got to do is you've got to learn to keep the equal distance, keep equal pressure, and just keep moving at the same regular pace. Now I'm steadying my hand by resting it, so sometimes using a hand rest might be helpful for fine painting like that. I'm just going to see if I can carry this on a little bit. There we go. Right, so this one here, which is a V shape, this is about doing lines. So what I want to do is try and follow the line and keep it straight. It's tricky, believe me. There we go. So following the lines, so it looks a little bit shaky, but I mean if you wanted a sharp edged line you'd put masking tape down. What I'm showing you here is how you can quite easily do something like a camouflage pattern without having to mask, and we have done that on the channel before. So you can do all sorts of effects without having to mask. And the more you get to grips with your airbrush and the difference that distance is making, the better that'll get. Now with dots, now you might want this for say German Second World War aircraft pattern or tank patterns. Dots is something that's really helpful to master. So what we're going to do is we're going to do air on, pull back, and then quickly switch it off so you get a dab of paint. Let's have a go. There you go. So I did a range of different sizes there. What you want to do is keep practicing until you can do them all pretty much the same size every time. That is how to master it. Now, I'm not saying that I'm brilliant at airbrushing. I'm just showing you how to practice and how to get better at your control. Right, we have some more circles here. So you can do your first one like you did the others. And then what I want you to do is do a thicker one, maybe a bit further away. So just have a play with different thicknesses, different distances. Yeah, and just learn the differences. Now in the boxes we're going to do some dashes. So what you're going to do is draw lines. I'm just going to... What I'm doing is I'm going different depths away from the page to get different thicknesses. See what difference it makes. So this is all about practice, and that's all there is to it. Get yourself some paper, draw some shapes, try and practice following those shapes and doing different effects. The more you practice, the better you'll get, and then you'll be more confident when you're applying it to your model. So that's all there is to it. Your airbrushing skills improve with lots and lots and lots of practice. And if you don't want to ruin your model and you think you've not got the airbrushing skills just yet, that's the thing to do. Get yourself a pad of paper and start practicing your dots, your dashes, your circles, your squiggly lines, your straight lines. Understanding the difference it makes the more air you've got on and the more distance you are. And eventually it will start to click and you'll feel confident enough to do more and more techniques on your model, and the more you do that, the better you'll get, and before long you'll have mastered it. That's a promise. Okay, well there you go. That's my tips for getting to grips with your airbrush. Hope that was useful for you. You enjoy your modelling and your airbrushing, and I will see you very soon. Bye for now. Thanks for watching. Please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done so. It's free, and that way you won't miss my first impressions, my tool reviews, my product reviews, and any of my builds, including wooden model kits as well as plastic. It's all free, and if you'd like to support the channel, you can hit my PayPal link in the text below. Every pound goes straight into the channel to keep the cameras rolling and to do more fun stuff for you to watch.